For a long time, the critics were loud. They said it would never happen. They said the timelines were fantasy. They said the vehicles would never actually get built, that the reservations were just numbers sitting in a database collecting digital dust, that the whole thing was nothing more than a beautifully rendered dream that would eventually fade the way so many electric vehicle startups had faded before it. And for a while, when there was silence from the company, when the updates were sparse and the skeptics grew louder, it was hard not to wonder if maybe they had a point. But something has shifted. Something real is happening inside a warehouse in Carlsbad, California, and once you see it, once you actually understand what is taking place inside that building right now, it becomes very difficult to dismiss this company the way some people still try to. Because what was once a vision, a concept, a dream that lived on renderings and computer screens and crowdfunding pages, is now something you can walk up to, touch, count, and measure. And the numbers, the footage, the evidence of progress, it all tells a story that the doubters are going to have a very hard time arguing against. Let's start at the beginning, because context matters here. A reporter from a local television station in San Diego recently visited the Aptera Motors facility in Carlsbad. This was not a PR event. This was not a scripted walkthrough with carefully staged props. This was a journalist walking through a working warehouse with cameras rolling, capturing what was actually happening on the production floor in real time. And what the cameras captured was remarkable, not because it was flashy or dramatic, but because of what it proved. It proved that Aptera is building cars. Multiple cars. Right now. Simultaneously. When you first walk into that warehouse, the thing that hits you immediately is the noise. It is busy. There is activity happening, and then your eyes adjust and you start to see them. The bodies. The shells of the vehicles lined up, taking shape, one after another. And if you count them, and the reporter did count them, you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 vehicles in various stages of assembly. 5 of them being worked on at the same time. That is not a prototype. That is not a single demonstration unit built for a trade show and shipped off to collect dust in a storage unit somewhere. That is a small, but real, functioning low-volume production line, and it is operating right now in a county in Southern California. This matters more than it might seem on the surface. For the past couple of years, one of the most common criticisms leveled at Aptera was that they would never build enough vehicles to conduct proper crash testing. The argument went something like this: crash testing requires multiple units because each test destroys the vehicle being tested. If a company cannot build multiples, they cannot crash test. And if they cannot crash test, they cannot get regulatory approval. And if they cannot get regulatory approval, they cannot sell anything. It was a kind of checkmate argument, and it was not entirely without logic. But those 5 vehicles sitting in that warehouse answer that question directly. They are building multiple units. The crash testing is not some distant hypothetical. It is something that is currently possible, currently underway, and getting more achievable with every shift that passes. Now here is something that deserves a closer look, because it reveals how seriously this company is thinking about scale and efficiency. Aptera made a deliberate decision to bring the assembly of their vehicles onshore, specifically to the Carlsbad facility, rather than having them fully assembled at the CPC Group facility overseas. On the surface, that might sound like a minor logistical detail, but when you understand the reasoning behind it, it starts to look like a very smart strategic move. Think about it this way. When you ship a product across an ocean in a container, you are paying for volume. A fully assembled vehicle takes up a certain amount of space. That space costs money. But if you ship the components unassembled, you can fit significantly more units into the same container. The pieces nest together, they stack, they fill the available volume far more efficiently. This means that for every container shipped, Aptera is getting more vehicles worth of parts into the country than they would if the vehicles were fully assembled before leaving the factory. And then the final assembly happens here, in California, which also has implications for quality control, for jobs, for the ability to quickly address any manufacturing issues that arise without having to coordinate across 12 time zones. The tool that makes this local assembly possible is what is called a jig. And the footage from the warehouse shows the jig in action, and it is worth understanding how it works, because it is genuinely clever engineering. The body panels and structural components are loaded into the jig, adhesive is applied, and then a series of levers and clamps come together simultaneously to hold everything in precise alignment while the glue cures. The beauty of a jig like this is repeatability. Every single vehicle that comes out of that jig is assembled to the same tolerances, the same angles, the same specifications, because the jig takes human variability out of the equation. You are not relying on a technician to eyeball an alignment. The jig does it the same way every single time. That is how you build quality at scale. And speaking of scale, the CEO of Aptera shared a production figure that, if accurate, is genuinely significant. When the production line is running at full capacity, the goal is to manufacture approximately 40 vehicles per 8-hour shift. Let that number sit for a moment. 40 vehicles per shift. If you run 2 shifts a day, 5 days a week, you are looking at production numbers that start to actually address that waitlist. And the waitlist, as of now, sits at 50,000 reservations. That is 50,000 people who have already raised their hands and said they want one. That is 50,000 households waiting for a solar-powered vehicle that, under the right driving conditions, may never need to be plugged in. That last point is worth dwelling on, because it is the core of what makes this vehicle so unlike anything else currently on the market or in development. The Aptera is not just an electric vehicle, it is a solar electric vehicle, and the distinction is not trivial. Most electric vehicles are simply battery-powered cars that happen to have a plug. The energy still has to come from somewhere. The grid, a home charger, a public charging station. The fuel is electric rather than gasoline, but the dependency on an external energy source remains. Aptera is attempting to break that dependency entirely. The vehicle is covered in solar cells. The roof, the hood, the rear hatch, and even the dashboard area are all integrated with photovoltaic material that continuously captures energy from the sun. According to the CEO, in a place like Southern California, which, as it happens, is where the car is being built, a driver can capture up to 40 miles worth of charge in a single day just from the sun. And for the average American driver, who travels something in the neighborhood of 30 miles per day, that means the car is functionally energy self-sufficient for most daily use. You park it. The sun shines on it. You drive it the next morning. No plug. No charging station. No energy bill associated with your transportation. Just sunlight and motion. This is not science fiction. This is physics applied at scale, and the solar panel production happening inside that Carlsbad warehouse makes it real. The footage shows stacks and stacks of completed solar panels ready to be integrated into vehicles. The roof sections, the hood panels, the rear hatch panels, all of them stacked up and waiting. The volume of panels that have already been manufactured is striking. This is not a team that has built 1 or 2 prototypes for demonstration purposes. This is a team that has been quietly, diligently building the components needed to actually outfit a fleet of validation vehicles and move toward real production. There is another detail in that warehouse footage that is worth talking about, and it is something that actually raises a question as much as it answers one. Among the solar panels visible in the footage, not all of them are destined for Aptera vehicles. Some of those panels appear to be for Polydrop, a company that makes teardrop-shaped aerodynamic trailers and has a relationship with Aptera Solar, the panel manufacturing arm of the Aptera ecosystem. The presence of those Polydrop panels tells you something important. The solar panel manufacturing operation is not just supporting one product. It is supporting multiple product lines, which means it is generating revenue and building production experience simultaneously. That is a healthier business position than being entirely dependent on a single vehicle launch. There is also something telling in the older artifacts visible in the warehouse. Tucked away, almost like relics from an earlier chapter, are the old honeycomb pattern body panels from a previous generation of the design. And there is an earlier prototype, wrapped and recognizable to anyone who has followed this company for a while, including the one that was famously wrapped in gold for a fundraising trip to the United Arab Emirates. That trip, if you followed the story at the time, did not generate the kind of investment traction the company had hoped for. But here is the thing. Those moments of difficulty, those near misses and fundraising challenges, they are part of every startup story. The companies that survive them are the ones that find another path forward. And Aptera found one. That path runs directly through the public markets. In October of last year, Aptera Motors was listed on the NASDAQ. Going public is not a magic solution to every operational challenge, but it does something that is genuinely valuable for a company at this stage of development. It creates visibility. It creates credibility with suppliers and potential financial partners who might otherwise be hesitant to engage with a private company of uncertain financial standing. And it creates access to a different class of capital. When the CEO talks about the company garnering attention from suppliers and potential financial backers since going public, that is not corporate speak. That is a real mechanism at work. A publicly traded company is easier to evaluate, easier to invest in, and easier to take seriously as a long-term partner. And the suppliers matter enormously right now, because there is at least one aspect of the production process that is still in a more manual stage than it will eventually need to be. The footage from the warehouse shows workers welding the roll cage by hand. Now, for the current stage of production, validation vehicles, low-volume builds, crash test units, hand welding is entirely appropriate. But for the high-volume production that the 50,000-person waitlist demands, that process will eventually need to be handled differently. A supplier like a stamping company, someone with the tooling and capacity to produce roll cage components at scale, will need to come into the picture. The fact that the team is building and welding them by hand right now is not a red flag. It is a normal part of the production ramp-up process. It means the design is being refined, the dimensions are being validated, and the specifications are being locked in, so that when the time comes to hand that work off to a high-volume supplier, the blueprint is exactly right. The chassis components, by the way, are already in transit. They are being shipped over right now, which means the supply chain for the structural foundation of the vehicle is moving. Pieces are in motion. Timelines are being met, or at least actively pursued. This is not a company waiting for something to happen. It is a company making things happen, sequentially, methodically, the way you have to when you are building something genuinely new in an industry that does not forgive careless shortcuts. And the vehicle itself is genuinely new. It is worth saying that plainly because it can get lost in the discussion of production logistics and financial structures. The Aptera is a three-wheeled, aerodynamic solar-electric vehicle with a design that looks like something between a sports car and a spacecraft. The form follows function in a way that is almost aggressive. The teardrop shape is not an aesthetic choice. It is an engineering choice, because that shape produces the lowest aerodynamic drag, which means the vehicle requires less energy to move through the air, which means the solar panels do not need to generate as much energy to keep the battery charged, which means the range is extended, which means the solar sufficiency promise becomes more achievable. Every design decision feeds back into every other design decision. It is a tightly integrated system, and that integration is part of what makes it so hard to replicate with incremental modifications to existing vehicle platforms. The CEO has stated clearly that the goal is to begin getting vehicles out on the road in 2026. That is not a distant date. It is not a decade away. It is the next calendar year, and the activity visible in that warehouse suggests it is not an empty promise. There is also a roadmap beyond the initial launch. Future models are planned with varying price points and range specifications, which means the company is thinking about accessibility, about reaching different segments of the market, about making solar mobility something that is not just for early adopters with high disposable income, but eventually something that can reach a much broader audience. Think about what that could mean over time. If you live in a Sunbelt state, Arizona, California, Texas, Florida, New Mexico, and you drive a reasonable daily mileage, an Aptera could theoretically eliminate your transportation fuel costs almost entirely. No gas, no charging bills, just whatever the sun provides, which in those regions is quite a lot. And if you do occasionally need to travel farther, the battery is there. You plug in when you need to. But the baseline, the default, is free energy from a source that has never once sent a bill and shows no signs of stopping. This is what makes the progress happening in Carlsbad feel like more than a company milestone. It feels like the early stages of something that could genuinely change the relationship between people and transportation. Not overnight, not in a way that disrupts every car on every road by this time next year, but incrementally, measurably, starting with 50,000 people who have already decided they want in, and expanding from there. The 5 vehicles sitting in that warehouse are not just 5 vehicles. They are proof. Proof that the engineering works. Proof that the assembly process works. Proof that the solar panel production works. Proof that the supply chain is coming together. Proof that this team, which has faced skepticism and funding challenges and the full weight of conventional automotive industry inertia, is still standing, still building, still moving forward. The doubters had their moment. They asked their questions, and those questions were fair. Can you build enough to test? Can you manufacture at scale? Can you actually put these on the road? And the answer coming out of that warehouse in Carlsbad right now is yes. Not eventually. Not in theory. Yes, right now, with real vehicles, real solar panels, real workers, real jigs, and a real production line that is just getting started. 2026 is not far away. And for 50,000 people, and honestly for anyone paying attention, what happens next in that warehouse is going to be worth watching very, very closely.